All right, everyone. Well, I want to welcome you back. And on today, Sunday, we're going to be talking about planning and preparedness when it comes to severe weather. So let's dig in with starting with severe weather forecasting and talk to you a little bit about what all is involved in that. You know, we have meteorologists and forecasters like me who are continuously monitoring current weather conditions and weather conditions that are being projected to arrive by computer models in the future. Like I said, guys like me, as well as the National Weather Service, local media outlets, and reputable, keyword reputable, private forecasting sources. I'm not talking about the ones who tend to overhype situations quite often. Those are sources that you want to avoid, and also sources that, just, blatantly don't know what they're talking about. And sometimes it can be pretty obvious. But my point is, you want to be very selective as to who you are trusting for forecasting. And understand, I'm not a primary source for severe weather. A lot of these private sources should never be considered primary sources for severe weather. That would be more along the lines of a weather radio or a weather alert app on your phone that can alert you right then and there of incoming severe weather. Anyhow, we are monitoring the severe weather. We're monitoring weather conditions continuously, and like I said, weather patterns that are projected in the future. We're doing this by monitoring computer forecast models, and we look to see what they are telling us, and they fluctuate a lot, and that's why we have to monitor them continuously, especially when we get into spring. There's several things that we see on these computer models that you don't see. These are kind of the behind the scenes things of forecasting, and you can see there's a couple pictures on the bottom right hand corner of your screen to kind of show you what I'm talking about. We look at a variety of different parameters in forecast models and look for any signs of any upcoming storm systems and try to determine if that storm system is going to pose a threat for severe weather. And once we have enough confidence to believe that a severe weather threat could be upcoming in the forecast, that's when we try to start passing out the alert and giving people a heads up, saying, hey, severe weather is possible, and this is something that you're going to want to be paying attention to in the coming days. So skipping ahead, let's talk about severe weather risk categories. Now, a lot of these other private sources, and sometimes even the local media sources, have their own little risk categories. It can be a lot of silly things from medium risk to extreme risk and all these different silly things. Some of them have indices. I won't mention any outlets in particular, but some of them have like special cons or condition indexes, whatever, that can somehow, they almost make it seem like they can precisely pinpoint what the chances are of a tornado within so many miles. And just avoid sources like that, because those are unreliable sources. What you should be paying attention to are the categorical outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center. That's what I try to go by in my forecast. I mean, I do my own forecasting too, but this is when it comes to like trying to provide you with a product. This is what I go by, the Storm Prediction Center's convective outlooks products. I do sometimes do my own little like scale measuring, in my opinion, severe weather threats for the area. But again, I'm not like a lot of these other sources who just create these nonsense indices that are just for hypes and for viewership. And so this is really what you want to pay attention to. And you can see here, it kind of describes the different outlooks that are issued by the Storm Prediction Center, the marginal risk, and you have to understand as well that there are exceptions. Not every forecaster is perfect. Sometimes you might have a high risk and it could bust, meaning that you don't have little to no severe weather. We've seen it happen before. It's very rare for that to happen these days, but it can happen. And sometimes if you're in a marginal risk, you can get more than what they're expecting. So you always have to kind of keep that stuff in mind, that not every forecaster is perfect. They do their best, but these come from the Storm Prediction Center. And generally speaking, when you're under a marginal risk for severe weather, that means that there is a possibility within the marginal risk area of an isolated severe storm or two. It's nothing really to worry about, and don't cancel any plans over it. What it basically means is that somewhere within a marginal risk area, there could be a little bit of severe weather, maybe a isolated tornado, a low risk of a tornado, maybe some marginally severe hail, some winds, maybe to 40 to 60 miles an hour. So an isolated severe storm or two is possible in a marginal risk, but generally it's not something that you're going to have to worry about. But always keep in mind that these outlooks can change, and they can be upgraded. They can be downgraded as well. They can be upgraded too. So that's just always something to keep in mind. Then you have your slight risk, which is a little bit more significant than a marginal risk, but still not too bad. Scattered severe storms are possible in a slight risk day. There could be a couple of rather intense storms, but usually not talking about anything widespread and slight risk or anything overly significant. A couple of tornadoes, maybe some damaging winds, some large hail. You might get a severe thunderstorm or a tornado watch box in a slight risk situation, but it's generally not going to be a big deal. It could be a little bit hazardous, but generally nothing too major. Just something to kind of pay attention to and monitor closely. And then when you get into the enhanced risk, that's when things get a little more significant. That's when you're talking about maybe the possibility of several severe storms. And once you get into the enhanced risk category, you're getting concerned at that point with severe weather maybe becoming a little more widespread, a little more significant. Hence, enhanced risk really does kind of poke the eyebrows a little more. The moderate risk, that's really when things begin to get pretty serious. That's when you're talking about a decent possibility of widespread, significant severe weather. Tornadoes, maybe a couple strong tornadoes, widespread damaging winds, and destructive hail. Again, even like I said, even in the enhanced risk, you can maybe get an isolated strong tornado or some very large hail and some very intense damaging winds, but that really begins to go up in the moderate risk category. And so that is something to keep in mind. Obviously, a moderate risk is usually a pretty serious deal when it comes to severe weather. And then you have your very rare high risk. That is an indication of widespread, the possibility or the likelihood, I should say, of widespread, very significant severe weather. When a high risk is issued, we're talking about a likelihood of just a flat-out tornado outbreak or a very intense damaging wind scenario that we refer to as a derecho, which we will talk more about later on in the week. High risk is very, very serious. But again, keep in mind, like I said, things happen, and even in a marginal risk, if the conditions are just right at the right time, although it would be very, very rare, you could still get a significant tornado. We saw that last year, I believe, actually in Kansas somewhere up near Topeka. No fault at all against the forecasters. They're doing their job. But it's just something to kind of keep in mind. No other products to keep in mind. The National Weather Service Hazardous Weather Outlook, issued daily by your local National Weather Service office to address any potential hazardous weather conditions which may develop that day. That's not an official alert. When you're talking about official alerts, that's when you're talking about watches and warnings. A watch, of course, means severe weather is possible. Warning means severe weather is occurring now or is imminent. So this is an example of what a watch box might look like. Depending on what media source you're paying attention to, it will vary to some degree, but these are the graphics coming from the Storm Prediction Center, which issues watches. This is a severe thunderstorm watch, and the point I'm trying to show is that watches usually cover a multitude of counties because the severe weather threat on any given day is generally over a large enough area where it makes more sense to issue it for a multitude of counties. In some cases, though, like this tornado watch in eastern Iowa that was issued, that was, I believe, for one lone supercell storm. It's just that the supercell was large enough that it justified having its own watch box for a handful of counties here in eastern Iowa. So warning polygons, back up here. Warning polygons several years ago were issued, the warnings were issued countywide. Nowadays, warnings are issued by polygons, which include certain sections of counties. The purpose of this change was to help reduce the cry wolf syndrome. You can see, a good example here of some warning polygons. This would be a severe thunderstorm warning polygon here, and you can see it does not include the whole county. Another example would be this tornado warning polygon. This is a very good example, the polygon red. And this is in fact, a really good example of precisely trying to narrow down the threat, the imminent threat of a tornado. You can see it includes the smallest, the southern sections of this county, whatever it was. I'm not sure where this is. Northern sections of this county, a sliver of northeastern part of this county, and then the southeastern part of whatever county this was here. But this is where the tornado would be, and you'll learn about this more later on in the week. That's a great example, though, of trying to narrow down that threat accordingly. So planning always starts in the home. We're talking about with your family. You always should have a plan with your family in a tornado situation or for any type of severe weather, really. Develop a plan, I'm sorry for the typo, for what to do during a tornado situation. Consider all possible circumstances. What if some family members are not home when tornado strikes? What if we have guests over? How do we accommodate them in a severe weather situation? What about tornadoes at night? All good factors to consider. Prepare a disaster package with emergency food, water, first aid supplies. Understand that power outages can occur at times and last for weeks. Get a weather radio and do it now. Even if you have a phone app, a weather radio is still a good idea. Even if you have a phone app that can alert you, it's just a good rule of thumb to have. It's about as important as a smoke alarm. Planning beyond residential life, and what I'm talking about here is planning and preparedness for other places. You know, I don't think they hit on this enough as they should. But every school, church, small business, hospital, factory, corporation, entertainment facility, you name it, any place should have a severe weather action plan. It really should be not its own plan, but part of an all hazards emergency operations plan that addresses preparedness and response procedures for a multitude of issues. Even issues that aren't weather related, like terrorism or active shooter situations or fires and whatnot. On March 1st, just to emphasize this, on March 1st, 2007, a tornado hit Enterprise High School, killing several students. August 13, 2011, damaging winds caused a horrific accident at the Indiana State Fair, causing a stage collapse which killed a number of people and injured many others. And you know, I really, we've had tornadoes come close to Indianapolis Motor Speedway in May. We've had a tornado come very close to the Georgia Dome during an NCAA basketball game. I just really fear that it is only a matter of time before we have some type of just absolute mass casualty, horrific mass casualty situation from a major tornado strike or major tornado damage on like a sports stadium or some type of concert venue or whatnot, because people were not paying attention like they should be. This is just a picture of a good idea. This would be like a tornado safe room. Good idea. A lot of schools in Kansas are getting these, and we'll talk a little more about these later on in the week as well. But please, just make sure that you have a plan, that you have somewhere to go, whether you're at your home, whether it's your business or sports stadium. It's very, very important to have a plan. Thank you.